Temperatures are about to shatter historical highs. It is expected that temperatures will continue to rise over the coming week. Citizens are advised to prepare for heat stroke prevention. The sound of the news broadcast on the television was like an ice pick piercing through my chaotic consciousness. I snapped my eyes open, and the cold sweat on my forehead instantly soaked the pillowcase. A burning, searing pain remained in my throat, a remnant of being roasted by the fierce sun in my previous life, as if I were about to suffocate in the next second. The tragedies of my past life flashed through my mind like a frantic movie. My love-brain mother had remarried shortly after my father passed away, wedded to the lazy and gluttonous Liu Dapeng. There was also Liu Dapeng's son, Liu Yaozu, and Liu Yaozu's wife, Liu Ruyan. They were idle year-round, living off the support of myself and Mao Bufan, yet they never showed a shred of gratitude. What we never expected was that as soon as the apocalypse arrived and the temperature broke 55 degrees Celsius, the city began power rationing. My mother brought Liu Dapeng's family of 3 and burst into our home without a word. Their eyes lit up when they saw the house full of supplies. Without saying anything, they seized the master bedroom and the living room, driving Mao Bufan and me into the top-floor attic, which had no air conditioning and suffered from severe western sun exposure. "Daughter, you and Mao Bufan are young. Leave these things for us, and go out to find food. Ruyan is pregnant with my eldest grandson and cannot be mistreated. Liu Dapeng and Yaozu are men. They need strength to protect us, so they must eat better." "That's right, sister. You and brother-in-law are so capable. Finding supplies outside should be easy for you, shouldn't it?" Liu Yaozu chimed in, crossing his legs and playing games. "We have the old and the young here. We can't handle the hardship." When Mao Bufan and I refused to compromise, they waited until we were fast asleep, locked the attic door from the outside, and cut off our water and food. The top-floor attic had no air conditioning and no ventilation. The temperature soared above 80 degrees Celsius. Our skin blistered and rotted from the heat. Our throats felt like they were on fire. And finally, we died in despair. Beside me, my husband Mao Bufan was sleeping soundly, his arm instinctively draped over me as if guarding something. Looking at his intact profile, my nose felt stingy with tears. I picked up my phone. The date on the screen was clear. March 20th, 2026. There were exactly 7 days left before the high-temperature apocalypse, where the maximum temperature would break 88 degrees Celsius. "You're awake? Why are you sweating so much?" Mao Bufan was awakened by my movement. He reached out to wipe the sweat from my forehead, his voice full of concern. I gripped his hand. "Mao Bufan, we have been reborn. There are 7 days left until the apocalypse." I told Mao Bufan everything that happened in our previous life in full detail. His expression shifted from shock to anger, then to heartache, and finally he held me tightly. "I'm sorry, Tang Tang. I didn't protect you well in our past life. This time, let them pay the price for their actions." Just then, the phone rang suddenly. I pressed the answer key, my tone indifferent. "Hello, Mom?" "Tang Tang, you finally picked up." The love brain's voice carried a deliberate sense of grievance. "The wiring over here in the old district is aging, and there are power outages every day. The room is as hot as a steamer. I really can't take it anymore. I, your Uncle Liu, Yaozu, and the others want to stay at your place for a few days to escape the heat. Do you think that's okay?" I sneered in my heart. but on the surface, I feigned difficulty. Mom, I'm really sorry. Mao Bufan and I have to go to the suburbs for a business trip recently. We'll be gone for several days. There's no one at home, so we can't host you. Why don't you think of another way? A business trip? The love brain's tone instantly became suspicious. Are you just trying to stop us from coming? Are you being selfish and don't care if we live or die? Mom, I really have to go on a business trip. My tone remained flat. I'll leave the house keys under the floor mat at the door. If it's really too hot, you guys can go stay at the house first and wait for us to come back. However, we have a lot of things stored at home for a company team building event. Don't touch them or we won't have anything to use for the event. Hearing that there were supplies stocked up, the love brain's tone immediately softened and she hurriedly said, Good. We won't touch them. We're just going to escape the heat. We'll wait for you to come back. Tang Tang, you really are a filial child. After hanging up, Mao Bufan and I looked at each other, our eyes filled with cold mockery. Filial? That top-floor old apartment and those small amounts of supplies, intentionally left behind, would be our apocalyptic gift to them. There was no time to lose. We immediately got up and started acting. First, we withdrew all the savings from our bank cards, a total of 8 million yuan. This was our savings from years of work, plus the inheritance left by Mao Bufan's parents. It was enough for us to stockpile essential high-temperature supplies and live peacefully during the apocalypse. Then we briefly packed a few changes of clothes, ID cards, bank cards, and a small amount of cash prepared in advance. We placed the small amount of supplies intentionally left at home, a few cases of mineral water, a few bags of rice, and a few packs of compressed biscuits, in a conspicuous location. We then put the key under the floor mat at the door, pretending we were truly leaving for a business trip, and quietly left that top-floor old apartment. Walking out of the community, the air outside already carried a noticeable dry heat. The sun beat down fiercely, making one feel uncomfortable. We did not linger, and immediately drove straight to the suburbs on the edge of the city. There, the land was vast and the population sparse, far from the chaos of the city center. After screening many options, we set our sights on a detached villa about 20 kilometers from the city. The villa had 3 floors. The first floor was the living room, kitchen, and dining room. The second floor had 2 bedrooms and a study. The third floor was a terrace. The basement was very large and divided into 2 areas. One could serve as a storage room, and the other came with a ready-made wine cellar. The wine cellar had excellent ceiling, was cool and dry, and was very suitable for stockpiling and storing goods that required low-temperature preservation. The perimeter had walls, making it easy to install defensive facilities. There were only a few households nearby, all far apart and very secluded. We signed the lease agreement on the spot. The moment we got the villa keys, Mao Bufan and I divided the labor. I was responsible for the supplies, while Mao Bufan was responsible for modifying the villa and security issues. Time was tight and the task was heavy. I immediately contacted a large bottled water company and ordered 1,500 barrels of 18-liter bottled water, as well as 800 cases of bottled mineral water. I also bought 15 large water purifiers, 30 large-capacity water storage buckets, and a large number of portable water purification tablets and filters. In case water ran low later, we could filter groundwater for emergencies to ensure we would never lack water. Seeing that they had ice makers, I ordered 20 of those as well. After settling the water, I rushed to the largest supermarket and called over the manager. 500 jin each of rice, flour, and oil, 600 cases of compressed biscuits, 300 cases of various canned goods, 200 cases each of instant noodles, turkey noodles, river snail rice noodles, and rice vermicelli. I also got a large number of vacuum-packed snacks and a full set of seasonings like oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. Considering that eating only vegetarian food and canned goods long-term would lead to malnutrition, we also specifically bought a batch of easy-to-grow vegetable seeds, green vegetables, Chinese cabbage, tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, etc., and set up a small planting area in the basement to achieve self-sufficiency. Thinking of malnutrition, I also asked a friend to contact a pharmaceutical wholesaler to order a large number of common medicines and first aid supplies, fever reducers, anti-inflammatories, painkillers, heat stroke medicine, trauma medicine, iodine, alcohol, gauze, band-aids, bandages, hemostatic powder, etc. I also bought several cases of vitamin tablets and calcium tablets to supplement the trace elements needed by the body and avoid malnutrition caused by a long-term monotonous diet. Next, I went to the electrical section and purchased 15 high-power air conditioners, 20 industrial fans, 10 mobile air coolers, 8 small refrigerators, and 5 large freezers. While driving back, I passed an outdoor goods store and bought several self-defense knives, high-strength engineer shovels, high-voltage electric batons, pepper spray, and 2 powerful slingshots with 500 steel balls. I also took 50 cases of candles, lighters, and kerosene lamps. In case the solar power system failed, we could still have lighting. While stockpiling goods, the villa modification was also proceeding urgently. Mao Bufan replaced the villa's main door with a reinforced security door and raised the courtyard walls to 2.5 meters. A high-voltage electric fence was installed on top of the walls. 10 surveillance cameras were installed around the walls for 360-degree, dead-angle-free, real-time monitoring of the surroundings. At the same time, 3 hidden cameras were pre-installed in the old house, specifically aimed at the Love Brain family's activity areas to ensure we could clearly see their every move. Security nets and reinforced glass were installed on the villa windows, and sunshades and heat insulation films were added to all windows to reduce heat. Finally, 8 high-power solar generators, 30 solar charging panels, and 50 large-capacity storage batteries were urgently installed to ensure a sufficient power supply to meet the needs of all cooling equipment, lighting, water purifiers, and other large devices. Mao Bufan also prepared 5 small diesel generators and 20 oil storage drums filled with diesel and gasoline, sealed and placed in a ventilated area of the basement as backup energy to avoid danger and ensure the cooling equipment would not stop running due to power cuts. For 4 days and 4 nights, Mao Bufan and I hardly closed our eyes, supervising the renovation progress while checking the supplies. During this time, the Love Brain called me several times to ask when we would be back. I brushed her off each time, telling them not to touch the supplies, while secretly discovering through the hidden cameras in the old house that they had long since started taking the large amount of supplies I had prepared. The whole family was both lazy and clumsy. Not one of them was willing to go out to buy food, and they even complained that our home's air conditioning was weak. Looking at their greedy faces, Mao Bufan and I felt no sympathy, only a cold sense of satisfaction. The money was what they owed us. In this life, we would reclaim it bit by bit with interest. On the evening of the 5th day, the renovation work was fully completed. All supplies were stockpiled, and all cooling equipment was tested and functioning normally. Looking at the brand new, fortified villa, Mao Bufan and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. In the morning, the news on television broadcast emergency warnings. Temperatures in many parts of the country had broken 68 degrees Celsius. Large-scale power and water rationing were in effect, and cases of death from heat stroke had appeared in some areas, reminding citizens to avoid going out and to take measures to prevent heat stroke and cool down. But by then, it was already too late. The power system began to collapse. Mobile phone signals gradually weakened, and chaos had already appeared on the streets. Some people did not hesitate to fight for a bottle of water or a cooling fan. Others frantically looted supplies from supermarkets, leaving scenes in total disarray. In the villa, the air conditioners and air coolers worked simultaneously, and the water chiller could produce ice water at any time. We drank iced drinks and ate fresh fruit, forming a sharp contrast with the chaos and heat outside. Every day, besides guarding the villa's security, we opened the surveillance to watch the miserable state of the Lovebrain family in the old house. The old house was completely out of power. The air conditioning could not run, and the temperature on the top floor soared above 80 degrees Celsius. Like a giant steamer without a hint of a cool breeze, even the air became scalding. The Lovebrain family ran out of water and food. Their lips were cracked, their faces pale, and they lay on the floor, weakly cursing us. The surveillance clearly captured Liu Yaozu actually hitting the Lovebrain for half a bottle of water. She lay on the ground, crying and begging Liu Yaozu for a sip of water. Liu Yaozu mocked her, saying, "Who told you to be useless and unable to find water? You deserve to die of thirst." Liu Dapeng stood by watching coldly, chiming in, "Exactly. A useless thing. Dying saves us trouble and stops you from competing with us for water." Seeing this, I turned off the surveillance, feeling somewhat uncomfortable in my heart. The peaceful days did not last long. Trouble still came to our door. That night, it was pitch black outside without a single light, except for the external units of the air conditioners and coolers running at our villa, and the rooms emitting a faint light. Around 10 p.m., Mao Bufan suddenly noticed an anomaly on the surveillance. A few people were lurking suspiciously outside the villa walls, holding binoculars and constantly looking into the villa with eyes full of greed. They probably sensed that there were cooling facilities and supplies here and wanted to come and rob us to see how many people we had. "Tang Tang, someone is targeting us." Mao Bufan's tone became serious as he pointed to the surveillance monitor. "Look, they have binoculars. They must have seen the lights in our house and the running external units. Guessed we have cooling equipment and supplies, and want to come and snatch them." I looked in the direction he pointed. Sure enough, there were 5 people outside the wall. They looked very haggard, their bodies soaked in sweat, clearly driven to a dead end by the high temperature and hunger. They paced while talking in low voices, as if plotting something. "It seems they are people who fled from the city or our nearby residents," I said in a cold tone. "They think we are easy to bully." We did not disturb them, but quietly made preparations. Mao Bufan picked up the high-voltage electric baton and the engineer shovel, while I held the pepper spray and the slingshot, guarding behind the main door. At the same time, we turned on the high-voltage electric fence on top of the wall and prepared our defenses. Before long, those 5 people began to move. They discussed for a while, and then one tall man moved a stone, trying to climb the wall to enter the villa. But as soon as he reached the top of the wall, he was hit by the high-voltage fence, letting out a shrill scream and falling from the wall in convulsions, lying on the ground, smoking and groaning in pain. The other 4 were startled and retreated a few steps, fear showing on their faces. But they did not give up. Looking at the lights in the villa and thinking of the air conditioning, ice water, and food inside, they became frantic again, clearly pushed to desperation. One thin, tall man picked up a hammer and began frantically smashing the villa's main door. Seeking death, Mao Bufan sneered, turned on the high-voltage baton against the door, and the current instantly passed through the hammer. The thin, tall man let out a scream and collapsed in convulsions, rolling on the ground in pain, just like the man before him. The remaining three were completely terrified and turned to run. Just as we thought they had all retreated, Mao Bufan shouted. I looked in the direction he pointed. One short, fat man had taken advantage of our distraction to secretly climb over the wall from a corner. There was a small gap in the electric fence there, left accidentally during the renovation, which we hadn't had time to repair. After climbing over the wall, he ran frantically toward the villa door, holding a kitchen knife and roaring like a madman. I want water! Give me water! Mao Bufan immediately rushed forward, grabbed the short, fat man's wrist, and twisted it hard. The kitchen knife fell to the ground with a clang. The short, fat man struggled and fought back desperately. Mao Bufan punched him in his fat face, pinned him to the ground, and pressed his knee against his chest. Seeing he couldn't win, the short, fat man began begging for mercy incessantly. I'm sorry, I was wrong, I won't do it again. Please let me go. I'm almost dying of heat, I've even starved thin. I just wanted a sip of water. He didn't notice me in the shadows. While begging for mercy, he was quietly reaching for the kitchen knife on the ground not far from him. The moment he grabbed the knife to rise and resist, I stepped forward and slammed the engineer shovel hard against his back. The man fell flat. Mao Bufan checked his pulse and confirmed he was no longer a threat. We threw him out. The other two people outside the wall saw this scene and were scared out of their wits. They didn't dare stay, scrambling away on all fours and never returning. After this incident, we became even more vigilant, immediately repaired the gap in the electric fence, reduced the time the lights were on at night, and tried to keep a low profile. A few days later, another group of people came outside the villa wall. I recognized two of them at a glance as the ones who had run away that day. They were probably driven mad by the heat and had returned with a crowd. People inside, open the door, quickly! Hand over the water, food, and air conditioning, or we will set fire to your villa, one leading man shouted arrogantly, holding a bottle of gasoline to threaten us. Mao Bufan sneered, picked up the slingshot, loaded a steel ball, and shot it fiercely at the leader. The steel ball accurately hit the leader's eye. He let out a shrill scream, and the gasoline in his hand dropped, spilling all over the ground. The rest of the people, seeing their leader injured, no longer dared to be arrogant, and supported the man as they prepared to flee. Mao Bufan and I did not pursue them, but simply warned their retreating backs. If you ever dare to come here and cause trouble again, it won't be as simple as an injury. From then on, no one ever dared to come to our villa to cause trouble. Everyone in the vicinity knew that a couple who were not to be trifled with lived in this villa. The high temperature continued to intensify. The temperature soon broke 68 degrees Celsius and reached a maximum of 88 degrees Celsius. The ground was scorched hot. All vegetation withered. Rivers completely dried up, and groundwater was pumped dry. The power system completely collapsed, and mobile signals disappeared entirely. The whole city turned into a living hell. We ate and rested on schedule every day, tending to the vegetables in the basement planting area. Watching the vegetables slowly grow, our hearts were filled with hope. We would read books and chat together to relieve the oppression of the apocalypse. Almost all our remaining free time was spent watching the surveillance. In the surveillance footage, Liu Dapeng and the others thought the love brain was a burden and wanted to throw her out together. Liu Ruyan took the opportunity to lock the balcony door. Her face was pale, and she held the last bottle of water. She said to Liu Dapeng and Liu Yaozu, "Only this one bottle of water is left. Keep it for your precious grandson. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the one in my belly isn't surnamed Liu." The father and son went completely mad, desperately smashing the door. But on the 88-degree outdoor balcony, they soon died from the heat, just as we had in our previous life. We stopped paying attention to the surveillance of the old house because there should be no living things left inside. Those who had once harmed us had all received their due punishment. Mao Bufan held my hand, his eyes full of tenderness. "Tang Tang, the hardships of the past life are all in the past. In this life, you will never be bullied by anyone again. We will stay together in this apocalypse, guarding each other until the heat passes and the world returns to peace." I nodded, leaning on his shoulder, looking at the air conditioners and air coolers running normally beside us, and the basement full of supplies. My heart was full of hope. In this life, without the blight of the Love Brain family, we will surely survive.